Hi and welcome to another episode. What we've got here is the Acorn Archimedes A3010 with its top off and its keyboard removed. Screws are already undone, ready to be taken out, as you can see. And the reason for that is I want to fix the button. Now let's see if we can get the camera to focus this time. As we know from last time, I wanted to fix it, but the replacement that I got just didn't work. There's no point moaning about it, it just didn't work. But this is the original button, and as you can see, just on this sort of square bit, there was bits of plastic sticking out either side like wings, and you would slide that into place. In the factory scenario, it's quick and easy to fit, but as a user, after a period of time, so many years, they snap off. It seems to be quite a common problem, and so I was interested about what I could do to get it fixed. But then I was contacted by Paul Ledger on YouTube, and then we started talking in DMs on Twitter, and I'd had the idea, but Paul was the clever guy that actually put it into a 3D design program and make it so that it works on 3D printers. So it's all his work. He got the measurements because I used some calipers and measured out the exact size of the green button. And basically it seems to work first time. It seems to be a perfect fit. Let's try to get it focused up again. As you can see, it seems to fit, that it will fit like that, and what I'm planning on doing is getting it in the drive and then actually using a dab of super glue. I know that seems for some maybe quite destructive, but at the same time I want this to be a one fit deal, never have to do it again. You could use any fit colour if you wanted to use out your 3D printer. I used white because I think it makes it look a bit like a mint. But what you want to do though is make sure that there isn't up and down to it, and you want to make sure it's the right way around. As you can see, it's a little bit closer to one edge than it is the other. So there is a top and bottom, and the bit that's closer to the edge is the top side. So let's have a go at super gluing this in. Never done it before, this is the first time doing it. Fingers crossed it all works. I don't get super glue absolutely everywhere. So as I say, lids off, keyboards off, unplugged these, speakers already undone. Just got to slide it out. And so it's this bit we're interested in, because obviously this has the floppy drive. And it'll fit, where are we? It'll fit there. So I'll move this out of the way, and so we can have a good look on the camera. Okay, the drive can be still unscrewed if you wanted to, but I'm not going to do that, because what I'm worried about is putting this peg in and then putting the button on top, and then it not being exactly where the hole is on the side of the case for the button. So what I want to do is actually get this peg in here so it stays here, and then when I get the button in place, I'll be doing it through the case. So first we've got to figure out how to get this into the drive. Now you can try to push it up through like here, but then it won't rotate up because there's just not enough space. You've got to be careful as well, because you can just about see there's some solder components and things. So to make this button come out, I've got to stick a disc in. My trusty disc cleaner, disc drive cleaner. So put that in, and that makes the button come forward ever so slightly, but enough. And that's the important part of it. So now you see you can actually sit, and it can pretty much just sit there by itself, but it will want to fall back out again. So pressing the sides of the button, so the metal bits of the button, to pop the drive back out again. So pop the drive back out again, pop the disc back out again. And now it really is quite sort of happy at staying there, but it is flopping, which isn't a good thing. So let's stick a bit of tape on there so that it stays in place. I've got a bit of cardboard down because I don't want to cut my giant mouse mount. So let's get some sticky tape on here, or sellotape, if you want to pronounce it. So I only need a little bit. And what I'm going to do is just, maybe you can't quite see from there, but you'll see the results in a moment. Let's try to do it this way. Let's bring a bit of tape around the back to hold the peg, as we're calling it, in place. So that's some tape on the back there. And then though, we're doing it so that it doesn't get in the way of the peg, because basically the little hole that's there, obviously we want super glue and stuff to get to it, but at the same time it is the bottom side of the peg now, and no super glue is actually going to be sitting there. Right, so the peg is staying in place. Can we see? Yeah, we can see. It's just staying in place. So now we need to mess around and get this back in the case. So back again. We're going to keep the cardboard though, because I'm going to use some super glue, and I want, as we know with super glue or crazy glue, however you call it, can drip all over the place at times. And again, I don't want to ruin my mat, I don't want to ruin the case, I don't want to ruin the mouse mat, the giant mouse mat. So back again in a minute with the case in place. Okay, we've got the lower half, main part of the computer, back in place. I'm going to put this just in the right place now. Again, I don't normally hook up my speaker, but you can do if you want to. Let's get this just lined up properly. There we go. So you hold the floppy up just a little bit on the back here as it's going in, but at the same time you've got to make sure it's all going back in place. So this little bit of shielding here goes into the slots. It all clunks into place, sort of thing. You'll notice when you're doing it yourself. Make sure that this is up a bit. There we go. And let's make sure that the screw holes are all nicely lined up, because obviously they've got to be done. So I'm going to mess around and put the screws back in there. So back a minute when I've done that. All three screws are back in. That's just to make sure everything's sat just the way it needs to be. There's not going to be no shift. But now what I would like to do is make sure that the little peg is in a decent looking place, which it seems to be. And before we completely flip it over and start super gluing, let's make sure the button fits. And there we go, it does. Let's put a disc in, make sure we can actually pop it in and out. Yep. Don't want to do it too many times because obviously we don't want the sellotape to come off. But this is the fun bit now of where we need to super glue this on. Now obviously if I put super glue on and do it this way, it's all going to drip all the way down. Or it could do if we put too much on. So what I want to do is actually rest it on its belly, as it were, making sure we don't crush any wires, so we just hide them away in there for now. Make sure we're not crushing anything. So now we've got a nice little peg of the floppy drive here, and obviously we need to be putting the button in this way in, because this is the bottom of the button, this is the bottom of the case. I know I'm saying the obvious, but it's amazing what mistakes you can do when you're concentrating so hard to do something. Right, so what we need is a dab, just a dab, that's all I'm going to try for it first and see how long that lasts, is a dab of super glue. So where did I put my super glue? Here's my super glue. Not sponsored, just happens to be the one that I'm using. As I say, in other countries, I believe you can call it crazy glue. You know what I mean, it's the stuff that dries instantly. You don't want it on your fingers, you don't want it anywhere. And see, as I said, I was concentrating so hard there, I nearly forgot the cardboard, just in case. So gently put that up. Here we go, we can try again now. See, I told you, easy to make mistakes when you're trying to do different things, especially when you're talking to yourself through a video. Right. Now don't go screaming at me across the internet, so I shouldn't be putting super glue on this button. Let's get some on there. Not enough so that it doesn't drip too far, but also it does make a decent bond, and I'm just moving it around the inner sides as well, just in case the peg does actually touch there, and then slightly on the back, but not lower than the square area, so that it can touch. You don't want to put it on straight away, you do want it to dry just ever so slightly, because that's how you should use super glue, is actually let it dry ever so slightly first before you apply it where you want it to go. So, have I got too much on there? I don't think I do. Oh, I have actually got a little bit further down than I wanted. So, I'll just move that out of the way with some tweezers. Not the biggest of deals if I get a little bit of super glue on there. Right, here goes nothing. Hold that into place. And then I'll come back when I've finished holding that into place. Just a little tip, you might see that I've got my tweezers jammed in underneath the button. That's holding it in place there, but then I'm holding it flat against the case so it's vertical again. This is definitely as far in as the button will go, but I'm still holding it in place to let it dry. Okay, so it's all nice and dry now. I'm going to leave it for quite a while yet as well though, to make sure that it still sort of lines up properly and it dries properly. I am going to recommend a slight tweak to the shape. Here's a red one that I did print out initially. What I believe that should happen is on the right hand side, I'm going to ask him to make it flat and bring it in a little bit, because basically the components that are on the drive, it slides up. With the metal bit it slides up and next to that, and then that means you can't actually pop the drive. So if it's not there, that won't happen. I would like to give a big shout out to Paul again though. Fantastic work for him to design it, create the button, because if your button seems to be missing, you can also, the little file that it has, it prints out the placement button, and it basically is exactly the same as what's there. I've already sort of tested it with the sellotape bit, I didn't glue it obviously, but it fits perfectly, sits nice. Again, pick a colour, you might want to go for green since there's a green keycaps. I don't know, I'm assuming it will fit on the A3010 as well, because that's the same size case. I don't know what the button shapes are for the like the A3000 or other ones, but for this particular one it seems to be working great. Yet again, big shout out to Paul. I'm going to put links in the description to the bottom, so that you can go directly to his link to go get it wherever he's uploaded it to. It's free use for everyone to play around with. As always, happy gaming!